You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. I am back in the Chi-Town studios, back from my sojourn to the southern studio there in Florida for a little bit of STA National Conference action last week. That was pretty fun. Look forward to all that hitting the network later this week. A lot of you pro folks are already getting it on the pro feed, so stay tuned for that. A lot of fun to be had on the show today as well. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. as well as from the network that's 17 and a half years young and not just still going, but growing, adding a new show just a few weeks ago, the Futures Rundown. So for all of you who have been taking those baby steps into the world of futures, including a lot of you in the crypto space, many of you have been asking us for years to launch a future show. We finally did it. Could resist no longer, listeners. So every Wednesday, that'll be hitting the network. Yet another reason to be subscribed, not just to the Crypto Rundown, but to the full network. Nearly a dozen shows coming at you each week. We will keep you engaged in the world of options and derivatives. Listen, that is our promise to you. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to be engaged even more with some exclusive content, pro Q&As, options oddities, live streams, like I said, early access to some of the stuff we're recording at these special events. And man, we're already coming up on almost the time to give away the September Pro Trading Crate. Only one place to go to get your hands on all that goodness. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us this week on the show, it is time to roll out the Crypto Hot Seat.
Forget about cold storage. It's time to turn up the heat on thought leaders from the world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time to take their place on the Crypto Hot Seat.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Crypto Hot Seat, the portion of the show we welcome on guests from throughout the world of crypto derivatives and indeed beyond, and proceed to pick their brains for the benefit of you, the listeners out there. And next up on the program is an old friend, even though he hasn't been on in, quite some time. I don't know the exact date. It's been quite a while, but I'm pleased to be joined once again by Scott Acheychek, the COO of Rex Financial. Scott, welcome back to the network, sir. It has been too long.
Mark, it's awesome to be here. Congratulations on all your success in launching the Future Show. That's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to dialing in.
I kept saying no, Scott, and they kept trying to pull me back in until I could say no no longer. But Scott, as I mentioned, you've been on, but it has been quite some time. I think your last appearance was back on Vol Views many years ago. So obviously a lot's changed in the market. A lot's changed on the network. We've had a lot of new listeners join us since the last time you appeared. So let's pretend we're just wiping the slate clean. Like this is your first appearance.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and give our audience a bit of an overview of your background in the world of finance and indeed crypto, as well as what it is you folks do over there at Rex Financial and Rex Shares.
All right. So my name is Scott Acheychek, and thank you, Mark, for pronunciating my last name correctly. I started my Wall Street career after majoring in math, so I didn't take a lot of finance or business courses. I took a lot of math classes, and that got me a role doing like equity operations stuff at Lehman Brothers back in the year 2000. Like think about, I don't know, like P&L stuff, trade breaks, all that kind of fun things. The reality was that there would be a lot of people, and myself included, that were working on some technology projects, and a lot of people were referring to like the basic old stock trading, people, front office, as almost like dinosaurs. So I started focusing some time on derivatives and left there to go to the wonderful bank by the name of Wells Fargo. And I worked on a structured note desk. And if you're not familiar with what structured notes are, think about packaging options with bonds. So if I bought a zero coupon bond, let's just say for 75 cents on the dollar, it doesn't pay out a coupon. It just accretes back to $1. So the 75 cents rolls to $1, let's say, make it easy, over a 5-year period. Then I have 25 cents to play with in the options market, which is where things got really fun. So you could do things like principal protected investments like on S&P that way, NASDAQ, or then you could, get into a way more different exotic things. Structured notes would include like these high income payout, defined income, defined different kind of payouts. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great intro for me into the wonderful world of options, how powerful and awesome they are. So I then bounced to AIG, and after that, Citibank. And the focus there was kind of similar. A lot of it was like multi-asset products, but a lot of derivative-based products. So I would work with some of the largest like pension plans in the world, hedge funds in the world, sharing, views that I had in the volatility markets. Maybe there's some incorrect pricing that we thought we saw versus what we see in the futures market. But also it introduced me to the world of asset managers. There was not a lot of people focusing on bringing different commodity products to the marketplace back then. So that's when, there was a white paper written, the facts and fantasies of commodity investing. And that's when you started to see a lot of people start to make allocations to pensions. But also at that time, there wasn't a lot of ETFs back there. So I helped launch a few different ETFs, including the first ever beta exchange traded note on the Dow Jones AIG Commodity Index back then. And kind of a funny small note, the guy I worked with on that was Greg King. He was at Barclays when they created that ETN. And I was at AIG. I helped hedge those products for him. And the fun part is we stayed in touch over the years, and he created this company called Rex Shares, and I joined right around the time when the first products were launched. So that kind of brings me to where we are now at this company called Rex Financial, which is like the parent company, and Rex Shares is the company that has a series of ETFs and ETNs in the marketplace that are pretty interesting. When we think about Rex Shares, I'd like to think of us as like an innovative issuer. We have a number of first of products, but if we break down the kind of products we have, it's really two kinds. It's trading products, which is everything from like 3 times gold, 3 times FANG stocks, or the T-Rex products, which we're going to get into in a little bit. We were the first ones to come up with 2x Tesla and 2x NVIDIA. And what's fun about that is that some of our competitors were dabbling in the single stock ETF world for almost 2 years, and then they couldn't crack the code on 2X. We spent some time on it and figured those out. So, again, we were the first ones to provide 2X exposure to just a ton of things, what NVIDIA, Tesla, Microsoft, Google. We just launched Bitcoin on it with IBIT. So it's the only way to get 2x like really spot Bitcoin exposure, and then also 2x MicroStrategy. So I think you'll see some of our competitors out there with some random amounts of leverage, but we were the first ones with 2x on a number of those. And then lastly, direct share side, we just created a suite of covered call products that I think you'll appreciate because we break down the equities that we own and we sell vol on the stock basis, not on the index basis. So because we're willing to take on that challenge, as you fully know, selling vol on a stock basis is more volatile than on an index basis. So if you compare those products to like a traditional covered call ETF, you'll see that our yields are much higher than a traditional covered call ETF. And then also because again it's more volatile, we're able to strike our calls further outside the money, which allows us to have the potential for more NAV growth as well. So I'd like to think we're pretty good at what we do on the structuring side, and that we just really focus on pockets of markets where nobody else does, and we just try to figure out how to improve or how to come up with some of these first of products.
Well, you covered a lot of ground there, and I want to get to all of that. But you joining us on an auspicious day here, Scott, because we have been debating this and talking about a certain aspect in the world of crypto derivatives pretty much since the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, everyone was obsessed with, will the SEC approve the Bitcoin ETFs? Of course, that came about mid to late January. And then the next question was, okay, let's get some options on these things. In the past, the options approval and the options listing would come, a few days to a few weeks after a hot new product was listed. Turns out the SEC was hemming and hawing and delaying. In fact, it was a big topic of conversation for us down there at the Options Industry Conference a few months ago. Everyone was debating. Some people thought we would never even see these things. They were so dire on the way the SEC was viewing the world of options on Bitcoin. You could buy a Bitcoin ETF, that was okay, but buying, let's say, a call on said ETF, forget about it. That was beyond the pale. Fast forward to last week, I was down at STA in the Southern Studio, and once again, this topic came up, and a lot of people were debating yet again. Will we see it? I don't know. Some people were thinking maybe optimistically by the end of the year, but even that seemed like that was stretching it a bit. And then lo and behold, no sooner do I turn off the lights on the Southern Studio that the news breaks heading into the weekend that the SEC did exactly what people were waiting for, listeners, the thing you've been writing into us for quite some time. They finally approved options on a Bitcoin ETF, kicking it off with the big dog, the BlackRock fund iShares Bitcoin Trust. Say that 5 times fast, aka IBIT, which Scott was just talking about. That was actually on Friday. I don't see a lot of regulatory notices hitting on Friday, so maybe that says something about what the SEC thinks about this. But let's start there, Scott. This is obviously big news for anybody in the crypto space, anybody in the options world, anybody in your side of the fence, the product world, because it opens up a lot of options, pun intended, for what you can do. Were you as dire as a lot of other people were that we would never even see these approvals from the SEC? And what are your thoughts now that they're finally starting to go through?
I think, to your point, like you were able to buy a Bitcoin ETF. You were able to buy Bitcoin futures. You were able to buy options on those futures. You were able to buy a Bitcoin futures-based ETF. You were able to buy Bitcoin futures-based ETF options. And yet, for some reason, there was no options on those Bitcoin ETFs with the spot-based ones, the physical ones. I would say I was more confused than anything else. And then as more time passed, I was starting to wonder. I'm like, what the heck? Will there have to be a new administration for this to take place? I was generally confused by it. I was definitely pleased to see the news hit. I mean, to illustrate how kind of silly this is. Okay, so at Rex, like I said before, we launched 2x and minus 2x Bitcoin, which is basically swaps on IBIT. So we have 2x IBIT and minus 2x IBIT. Within about a week, maybe it was a week and a half of launching 2x IBIT, we had options on 2x IBIT. But IBIT did not have options itself. I mean, that's how kind of silly this situation became.
Yeah, this has been kind of baffling to me from the beginning. They would approve all those other products you just mentioned, and yet you couldn't buy a call on the underlying or a put to hedge it, which is demonstrably risk mitigating, not risk additive. And you're right, you folks were able to go list levered products on IBIT and have options on those, which is even more mind-boggling than not the underlying itself. So I was starting to despair, Scott. I thought we were just lost in this kind of bureaucratic nightmare where it was never going to happen. Talking to a lot of people behind the scenes who spend their days really knee-deep in the regulatory minutia, a lot of them are pretty dire. Some people were saying it was a question of even if, not when, this was ever going to happen. That's how dire they were. So I thought this was never going to happen, Scott. So yeah, just to see it happen on a Friday, sneaking out on a Friday after I turn off all the microphones last week. Kind of annoying, but also good at the same time. Really quickly, Scott, we have a poll. This went live this morning with our audience. This is our question of the week, listeners. You folks can play along at Options on Twitter right now. We said, quite simply, ask and you shall receive. After months of waiting, the SEC finally approved options trading on the Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock. We just mentioned it, ticker symbol IBIT. Very simply this week, do you plan to trade IBIT options when they are listed? We gave our audience 3 choices, Scott. Heck yes, hell no, or I prefer something else. And we gave them a bunch of choices, BitO, BitX, etc. What is your vote? I think you know where you're going, Scott. And then B, where do you think our audience has fallen?
I have to imagine, yes. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is one of the things I love about moving from covering institutions to creating products for everybody, is that you're providing access, right? So I love tools in my toolbox. My favorite part of my portfolio is the part that I trade very frequently, and that's options, levered products, all that kind of fun stuff. So yes, I have to imagine the answer is yes. I would definitely remind people that options are available on 2x IBIT if they wanted to, with BTCL being our ticker there. But I have to imagine the majority of people said yes. They're heck yes, they're interested.
You are correct. We do preach to the choir after all. And 80% right now, in the first couple hours of voting, listeners, 80% of you are definitely intrigued. You're saying heck yes. 20% say hell no. I get it. There's some crypto doubters out there. No votes for BitOs or BitX or any of that kind of fun yet. But Scott, you mentioned BTCL. Let's get to some of the other fun going on in the crypto derivatives product world. You folks have been busy since the last time I talked to you, which I just heard from my producers was back in November of 2018. So it's been quite some time. A lot going on both on the network and in the markets, and indeed over there at RexShares. Let's start with some of the stuff you were just talking about that may intrigue our listeners. Back in July of this year, you launched the T-Rex, which, by the way, I do love the moniker there, T-Rex. It's good. T-Rex long, 2x long, I should say, Bitcoin Daily Target ETF, as you mentioned, BTCL, and the inverse Bitcoin Daily Target ETF, BTCZ. As you mentioned, levered products that were approved and optionable on IBIT, which, again, just blows the mind out there. But you launched these back in July. As you kind of touched on them already, but give our listeners a bit of an overview of these products, why you decided to launch them when you did, and how are things going volume-wise in the early offing?
Yeah. So, all right. So first, let me address T-Rex. So, you may have heard of the name Matt Tuttle. He created a company called Tuttle Capital Management. He is infamous. He was the one that created the short Jim Cramer product. He initiated, I believe, the short Kathy Wood product, SARK, and so it's SARK and SGIM, and some other notable achievements. So Tuttle is actually the T in T-Rex, and then obviously Rex is the Rex in T-Rex. So it's a collaboration with Tuttle that we're super excited about. We started last October with the first 2x NVIDIA, 2x Tesla products. And yes, we're excited about having Bitcoin up. Summer launches are a little bit tough. I think, we have to get our story out there. There's 2 other that I know about anyway, levered Bitcoin products out there. One is fully futures-based, and the other one is about a quarter futures-based, and the rest on swap of physical. And it's important to point out the differences between Bitcoin futures and Bitcoin spot. I mean, you could look no further than comparing IBIT versus BitO, and you'll see that BitO is not keeping up with IBIT by, actually, I think it's around 4% or so last time I looked. And that's straight contango bleed. So if you appreciate contango bleed, then, maybe a futures-based product is for you. But from what we understand from the traders that we speak with, there was much more appetite and much more interest in just a straight, more 2x IBIT product. So just completely staying away from the contango and the futures and all that kind of fun stuff. As it relates to volumes, I mean, we're seeing them pick up pretty steadily. We're definitely kicking off some more marketing events and some content kind of breaking down how we're a little bit different than the other two products that are out there. But we're super excited to be out there with this product. I think, no matter what happens in November, it seems like both administrations are pretty bullish on the crypto industry. I think, obviously Trump buying burgers for a bunch of people in Bitcoin and being open to a strategic reserve shows that he's going to be very aggressive when it comes to crypto. But it does appear that Kamala is going to be at least open to meetings and open to learning more and hopefully doing more to advance that industry as well. So I'm excited about having these products out there.
Well, you mentioned, my first point of contention whenever I see a new levered or inverse product coming on is, as you just mentioned, the issue with the negative roll yield, or as you called it, the contango bleed. It usually tends to impact these products dramatically. We see it in the vol space all the time. In fact, it's a tried and true vol trading strategy to trade the erosion that results as a result of a lot of these inverse products and having to roll their underlying futures position on a regular basis. These levered products are not exposed to that, Scott.
Yeah, well, IBIT is physically backed, so it owns physical Bitcoin. So it's almost like GLD versus
GLD versus
ETFs
gold.
out there that are.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's any other gold future-based ETFs out there. But if I'm looking at, I just pulled up Bloomberg, but if I look at IBIT versus BitO, since IBIT was launched in January 11th, it's outperforming BitO by about 5.4%.
Of course, BitO does pay that ridiculous dividend, so maybe if you add that,
this is the total return.
That's total return. Okay, well there you go. So there you go, a little bit of bleed out there, which is again something interesting. Yeah, and you're right. It is very much analogous to the GLD. You're actually holding the physical, something a little bit different than some of the other various Franken products that are out there. And then, of course, fast forward to last week, Scott. You folks have been very busy. You decided it wasn't enough to have the levered IBIT products. Now you're coming back in to launch levered products on a, let's say, crypto-related name, which we talk about a lot here on the show as well. We talk about Mara and a bunch of other names that a lot of people use as crypto proxies in their portfolio. You're going one step beyond and actually launching, again, 2x levered and inverse. You love the levered and the inverse over there at Rex Shares. This time on MSTR. So that just launched last week. Ticker symbols MSTU for the 2x levered, and then the MSTZ for the 2x inverse. So Scott, catch our listeners up. What are we talking about with levered and inverse products on MSTR?
Yeah, so MSTU and MSTZ are the first 2x and minus 2x daily leverage, daily resetting ETFs linked to MicroStrategy. This is also just, again, like I talked about before, another tool in the trading toolkit for people looking to express short-term trading views on MicroStrategy. And also, as you would probably appreciate, I believe on Friday, we got options listed on MSTU, MSTZ, again, even though we just launched on, I believe it was Wednesday. So we're super excited about adding these products to our marketplace. We are very much, like traders at heart, and we want to trade things that people want. So being able to provide the most amount of leverage allowed in the ETF marketplace, to being 2x and minus 2x, linked to something as popular and even as polarizing as MicroStrategy. We're pretty market agnostic. I have products and views of my own, but at a firm basis, we're very market agnostic. We just want to provide the best tools out there, whether you want to go long or short. And I could cite many examples, but maximum amount of leverage for short-term trades is what people are looking for. And I think when it comes to, whether it's crypto trading, Bitcoin directly or MicroStrategy, the stock, it seems like the trading in your brokerage account is what people seem to like a lot. And it just makes things, just simple as opposed to putting things in wallets, trading it, worrying about storage, even if it's for a short-term view.
Well, I was just looking here as we were talking, Scott, and it certainly seems like you're on the right track here with, obviously, MSTR gets some attention out there, and it seems like it's spilling over into the related product. MSTU already doing a couple of hundred contracts out there today after just launching last week, including 140 lot of the OCT25s, people coming in and liking to overwrite them for $8.50. So a hefty premium. I guess you can't fault them out there. They are roughly $6 in the money, actually $7 in the money options. So an interesting choice, but wow. So yeah, getting some action right out of the gate there, Scott. I guess folks are intrigued.
And it's funny, our press release isn't even live yet that says the options are available. I think that's going out tomorrow. So we're really excited about being able to bring these to the marketplace.
Well, clearly somebody got word before the press release went out, Scott, because they're out there slinging it today.
Certainly public information. I think we tweeted it out, but the bigger campaign we haven't done yet.
Oh, wow, interesting. So yeah, I'm looking here, and it looks like the OCT30s. There's a ton of those, about 600 of those open, which are now also in the money options. So wow. It's been an active, not even a week, 5 days here, Scott. So it's been clearly there is demand for these, and all of these traded last week on the 20th. About 600 of these OCT30s. We like to get into the weeds a little bit here, Scott, and see what's going up in this product.
Absolutely.
So yeah, about 463 trading for $3.67 when MSTU was $29.66. So these were still out of the money calls. Looks like a lot of yield harvesting early on here, which again, you can't fault them. They're getting some this is 108 volatility. You can't fault folks for wanting to sell a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But Scott,
especially post-Fed, right? Post-Fed, there's definitely a little bit of vol pop.
Yeah. Well, Scott, it sounds like you folks have found your niche here in the levered and inverse crypto adjacent product, shall we say. So where does this stop? Are we going to see levered and inverse Coinbase next? Maybe the Maras? What's next on the docket for you guys over there at RexShares in the crypto space?
I can't really go into big details on what's next. What's fun about being
it's just you and I talking here, Scott. There's nobody else listening. Yeah. It's just two guys chatting.
I'll give you some great examples. What's first about cracking the code and being the first one on 2x, let's say for NVIDIA with NVDX, or Tesla with Tesla T, is that some of the stuff is made public because of public filings, and then we get copycats out there, and then other firms basically like, oh, that's how they did it. Let's do that too. So I'm very sensitive about sharing other ideas coming out, but I would say. We have more things coming in the pipeline, almost immediate, and in the short to midterm. We love this space. We think it's going to continue to grow. The levered inverse space is something that's pretty near and dear, close to my heart. As we created that microsectors suite of platforms, which is like smaller, concentrated baskets that are leveraged. And what's beautiful about that is that it's like a smaller basket approach. You're getting your targeted returns. Well, I don't think it gets more targeted than the single stock. If you have single stocks out there that are super interesting and trade a lot and have what we deem social velocity, and we deem social velocity just how often do people talk about this thing on something we should be interested in looking at, and we constantly scour the marketplace. So you will definitely see more products coming from us soon.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy product launch cycle to join us here on the old crypto rundown. We'll have to do it again more frequently than once every 6 years. It's a long time frame.
Absolutely. And yes, I think I'm gonna be in Chicago next month too. So I'll let you know when I'm in town. Hopefully we can meet up.
All right, sounds good. And in the meantime, in between our 6-year appearances here, if folks want to learn more about what you folks have cooking over there at RexShares, where should they go? What should they do?
RexShares.com, REXShares.com. You'll see us on all of our products. And if you follow us also at RexShares on Twitter, you'll see a lot more of our commentary. You'll see when we get options listed on different products, macro updates, micro updates, all that kind of fun stuff.
There you go, listeners. RexShares.com, REXShares.com, the place to go to learn more. And Scott, will look forward to seeing how all these products you just launched, how they all perform in the marketplace in the coming months.
Can't wait.
All right, listeners, we can't wait for our next segment. It is time to keep on rolling right on into the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. Yep, we're talking about the big dog, which is Bitcoin. Looking a wee bit bigger this week. If you listened to our TWIFO show last week, Bitcoin was at the top of our movers and shakers light side leaderboard last week, and a pretty hot light side week. So Bitcoin's been gaining some ground. Coming into the start of the show today, 63,439. On our last show was 57,798. That puts it up 5,641 handles, listeners. So not quite 10%, but pretty darn close. That's quite the banger week. As of last Thursday, I believe it was up 8% already. So quite the run. The high came pretty much today, right as we were kicking off the show, 63,439. The low was pretty much right around our show time last week, so 57,798. So we've seen the highs and the lows on our shows over the last couple of weeks, which is always fun. Let's get out in some of the data out here. Let's crunch some analytics, courtesy of our friends over there at Amber Data, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires for yourselves, listeners. Let's start weekly and work our way out as we are wont to do. 7-day vol in Bitcoin, 47.60 today. That comes down from about 54 and a quarter. Again, a decent move, but not enough to maintain the vol levels we were seeing last week. The same deal on the 30-day vol front, even though it is coming in a little bit less. It's a 49 right now, a 51 last week, so down only 2 points. And the 6-month vol was at a 62 last week, 60 and a half this week, so down a point and a half. Let's get out to the Skew and see what it's telling us out there right now. And right now, it's looking like the Skew thinks we're pretty much hanging out right where we're supposed to be, at least on the weekly front. We were almost at a -4 this time a week ago, -3.7, so that Skew was certainly aimed in the wrong direction, huh? That's why we always say the Skew is not always a crystal ball for where Bitcoin will go, but just an indication of what the options are pricing in, listeners. They were markedly biased towards the dark side last week, and of course, we've had pretty much naught but rallies ever since. This week, the Skew kind of flat on the weekly side, 0.5 to the upside, so maybe it's just kind of exhausted itself, and it's waiting for the next leg, the next move, listeners. A similar deal on the monthly Skew front. It was -1.25 this week. Swinging in the opposite direction, +1.25 this week, so a 2.5 point swing. Still, I would consider mostly anything a point and change in either direction to be flat. So hanging out mostly flat on the monthly Skew as well. You know, long-term hodlers are going to hodl. They're getting a little bit juicier this week, though. +3.1 on the 6-month Skew last week. This week, a +4. So ticking up a little bit. They want to hodl that much more this week, listeners. Let's get out some of the products that you folks like to trade. We're going to have to start adding some of these other ones like IBIT and things to the mix as well. Maybe some of the Rex Shares products as the volume starts picking up. So an embarrassment of riches is going to be a 3-hour show pretty soon, listeners. Let's get out to BITO right now. 1920 up nearly 2 points, 1.7 points from this time last week. In terms of ADV, that's getting a shot in the arm as well. 84,000 contracts a day. Now it's up 10,000 from this time last week. So you folks liked that move. In terms of options volume, it's generating some paper flow out there. Today wasn't looking that hot, so it doesn't seem like they're going to hit it today. Only 32,000 as of the start of the show. Let's see if that's ticked up a little bit. Slightly. It's up to 37,000, so not going to hit 84K today, listeners. And the vol kind of treading water, down slightly at a 52 right now on the 30-day vol front, down about 3 points from this time last week. All the long-term stuff is still in place on the size positions, but interestingly enough, we do have some paper expiring this week. The 20-half and 19-half calls are number 4 and number 5 with 37,000 and 32,000 contracts open respectively. Again, those are going the way of the dodo this week. And it looks like, again, those were not on the board last week. That is new paper. It was opened 36,479 of the 20-half calls expiring this week. Traded last week on the 19th, so a few days after our show. Listen, let's see what they were up to out there. Looks like they mostly bought them for 16 cents. A block of 31,150 went up for 16 cents. Again, they have till the end of the week. So Bitcoin needs to get into gear. It can do it. Obviously, we've seen Bitcoin run before. They paid 19 cents for 1,000 more, so wow, they really... They were really excited about these options. Let's look at the other ones here really quickly as well, see if there was any spread action between the two. It was a busy day last week on the 19th, listeners. 31,150 was the magic number. We saw a bunch of opening of the 20 halves. We saw opening on the 19 halves. Again, the same number. So it looks like there could have been some vertical action there. 19 half. 20 half. Looks like they did that spread for 27 cents. Paper probably bought it. And then we also have 31,000 of the OCK 2601 puts. Great strike. 774. There's some meaty options in this. 2801 puts going up 31,155 times. 26 calls for 8 cents opening on those bad boys as well. So it looks like we've got some aggressive rolls going on here. It's a multi-part bit of fun going up out here, listeners. So we have it here as the 31,000 of the 2801, 2601 in October put spread for $1.11. That was the meat of it. Looks like probably rolling the SEP out to October, and then also against it having some funky call verticals, which are opening. Again, opening that 20.5, 19.5 vertical 31,000 times was opening. So we'll know by the end of this week what's going on with that vertical leg. So lots of paper going up out here this week. Listen, wow, BITO. I guess all it takes is an 8 to 10% move, and folks are slinging some BITO, which is interesting. Is that the case out there in BitX as well? BitX 29.25 when we kicked off the show, up nearly $5, 4 3/4. So doing what it's supposed to do, being the levered alternative to BITO. In terms of volume today, about 10,000 contracts on the tape. That's not a ton when the ADV is 18,000, but the ADV moving in the right direction, up about 1,000 from this time last week. The vol down 18 points. It's a 96 right now, so still frothy, still almost triple digits, but down a whopping 18 points on the week. The big positions out there, again, mostly Jan of 2026. It's like the most near-dated position we have in the top 5 are the D's 30 calls, 5,800 of those. So, again, those are almost at-the-money calls. Now, that's the closest we have, listeners. So nobody playing in weird size weekly verticals like they are in BITO right now, which is kind of interesting. Let's get to Mara, then we'll get on to the altcoin universe for this week. Mara was literally unched when we kicked off the show at a 16 even, so not able to get out of its own way this week. The ADV 198,000, down 7,000 from this time last week. Today we got about 137,000 contracts on the tape, so it seems like a quiet day across the board for most of these names. Vol-wise, 82 when we kicked off the show. It's down about 5 points from where it was this time last week. And the big dog out here, again, it's all D's is the earliest we have. D's 32s. So again, those are not looking great. We talked about some SEP 30s that were still open as of last week. Those have obviously gone the way of the dodo. Now replaced by 34,000 of the Jan 30s. So some folks clearly liking the 30 strike, as we like to explore a little bit of the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, let's get to it. Let's break down the altcoin universe for this week. And, last week we had Tron holding down the number 10 spot at 12.8 billion worth of market cap. Obviously, we're going up a little bit this week. And spoiler alert, Tron still holding down the number 10 spot this week with about 13.25 billion worth of market cap. Number 9, we got Toncoin coming in right above it, 14.25 billion. Number 8, so it's kind of a repeat of last week on the bottom, just a little bit more juice added in there. Number 8, we got Dogecoin, 15.6 billion. Number 7, our old pal XRP, 33.1 billion. Number 6, USD Coin, 35.9 billion. Number 5, Solana, 67.3 billion. Number 4, BNB, 89 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, 119 billion. Number 2, it's ETH, 322 on the tape. And the big dog, Bitcoin, $1.25 trillion worth of market cap, listeners. Let's get out to ETH, number 2 on the market cap side, number 1 in a lot of your hearts. So also rallying this week. 2286 on the show last week, 2675 this week, up nearly 400 handles, 389 to be precise. So quite the run over the course of the past week. Is that enough to maintain the vol levels we were seeing last week? The answer is not really. 62.8 was the weekly vol last week. This week, 57.6. So coming in a little over 5 points, about 5.2 points out there. On the monthly vol front, also coming in. It was 60.5 last week, 58.25. This week, down 2.25 points. The long-term vol, that one kind of treading water. It was 70.9 on the show last week, 71 even this week, so pretty much unched on the week. Let's get out to the Skew and see what's kicking around out there. Last week, we were looking decidedly negative on the near-dated Skew, negative 4.1. This week, that's all gone. We're pretty much back to flat, positive 0.35 to be precise. So pretty much flat in my book, so weekly options not pricing in any big moves in either direction. Going out a month, we were at a negative 1.8 last week. This week, negative 0.7, so still pretty much in the flat range, I would say. And then going out longer term, folks getting a little bit more excited. It was a positive 3.3 last week, positive 4.3 this week. Let's run down some of the other altcoin, then we'll get out some of your questions for this week, listeners. Solana last week, 130.44. This week, 143.61, up a whopping 13 handles and 17 cents on the week, listeners. XRP, 57.8 cents. Last week, 58.6 cents this week, so gaining nearly a full cent. Exciting times in XRP, listeners. Doge, 9.9 cents last week, 10.7 cents this week, so clawing its way back out of the mire is Dogecoin. Love it, hate it, whatever your choice is. A little bit bigger this week. Litecoin, 62.31 last week, 67.67 this week, up 5.36. Cardano, 32.9 cents last week, 35.9 cents this week's up about 3 cents. Polkadot, 4.21 last week, 4.40 this week, up a whopping 19 cents. And everybody's favorite, Shiba, getting a little bit closer, dare I say it, to the Lambos. 1,000,000 zeros, 1,309 last week. This week, 1,000,000 zeros, 1,452. Can you feel it, listeners? The Shiba Lambos getting that much closer this week as we're getting closer to the crypto questions.
You've got questions about crypto. Who doesn't? It's time to find out the answers to your crypto questions.
All right, let's get to it, listeners. Crypto questions. It's been a hot couple of weeks on the crypto front for the crypto questions. In terms of our questions of the week, very active. First off, I mentioned at the top of the show with Scott there, our question of the week right now, again delving into crypto. Are you planning to trade the IBIT options when they are listed? 80% of you still hold in court saying, heck yes. Only 20% saying, you're not interested. And no one so far is saying they prefer BITO or something else. So that's kind of interesting. Again, it just went live a few hours ago. This is our question of the week. You guys can play along at options on your Twitter/X machine of choice. Last week, we asked you folks along those same lines. You know, this has been a debate that's been raging certainly in mainstream finance since 2017. Obviously, before then, even in the crypto world, as to, you know, Bitcoin has lived many lives over the past decade. We now have quite a bit of data under our belts, but the debate still rages. What role does Bitcoin really play in a modern portfolio? We gave you 3 choices and the infamous other. It's digital gold, so kind of going back to that old saw, or it's an uncorrelated asset class, or it's just another tech stock, or other. And you guys wrote in with a bunch of your others, crazy lottery ticket, all sorts of other fun stuff. Other got 7.7%. That was at the bottom of our list. But what took it, pretty much a tie, about 33% each for uncorrelated asset class, and also just another tech stock, also around 33%. So our audience had a hard time making up their mind last week, which is understandable. Bitcoin's kind of all over the place. It makes it difficult to pin down. And then 25.6% sticking with the old standby, I should say, of it's digital gold. What did you vote, listeners? I'm curious. Right now, it's our audience can't make up their minds. A digital gold or not, or I should say uncorrelated asset class or not. Either way, play along, get out there, add options, make your voice heard on this week's question of the week, and keep those other questions coming on in. All right, that is going to do it for us here on the old crypto rundown this week. Man, more products getting listed every week. More data to crunch. This show is going to be 5 hours long pretty soon, listeners. In the meantime, if you want to check out some of those products, check out our friends over there at RexShares. Scott and the company putting out all sorts of interesting levered and inverse products. So if you're crypto curious and you like a good option to trade, maybe you want to check out rexshares.com. Either way, you definitely want to check out our friends over there at Amber Data, amberdata.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us on the network for today, listeners. But you know what? No rest for the wicked. I'll be back tomorrow for all of our friends out there on the pro side with a great pro Q&A with our buddy Kevin Green from the Schwab Financial Network. Let's talk a lot of futures. So if you have questions about crypto futures in particular, get them in. If you want to join that session as well as options oddities this week, as well as get the live, get the gift bag we give out to the pro trading crate, all that fun. Only one place to go. theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Back again on Wednesday for a doubleheader of Options Bootcamp and the newest addition to the network, the Futures Rundown. Thursday, TWIFO, which a lot of you from this show should be listening to, as well as the Option Block. Option Block coming to you live from the SIBO this week. Should be fun. And then Friday, Vol Views, and of course, afterwards, or a little bit of options oddities for our pro folks. Then we're off for the weekend. No rest for the wicked, though, because we're right back here on Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.